What's so funny? Lessons from Canada's Leacock Medal for Humour Writing. Lesson number 16. When it's time to see the humour. This is a review of the 1963 Leacock Medal winner, 3 Cheers for Me by Donald Jack. Hi, I'm Dick Bourgeois Doyle. As a World War II ambulance driver at Camp Borden, Ontario, my mother attended an average of 6 to 8 fatal air crashes per month. She learned what a body looks like after it passes through a propeller, and what it smells like while still smoldering. Dramatic stuff. But whenever asked about her role in the war, she talked about her time as a chauffeur to a famous pilot. "I drove Billy Bishop to drink," was her one-line response and joke. By the time Donald Jack wrote his war story, 3 Cheers for Me, the 1963 Leacock Medal winner, other concerns were starting to displace the pain of World War II, and the veterans like my mother were more and more prone to focus on funny memories and stories. The British-born Jack had served in the Royal Air Force, moved to Canada, and established himself in a less demanding situation as a playwright and author. He too could laugh about the war more often. But, as a writer, he also knew that a good story is more than a one-line joke like my mom's. So 3 Cheers for Me surrounds the humor with description and drama, never shying away from the trenches, muddy battles, and hairy dogfights. Yet, it is very funny. The Bandy books, 3 of which would win the Leacock Medal, are first-person accounts of the life of Bartholomew Wolfe Bandy, a sometimes smart, but luckless Canadian medical school dropout who heads for the front lines in 1916, and later fights from the cockpit of a Sopwith Camel. The realism of the stories convinced some early readers and reviewers that they were non-fiction memoirs. I found myself laughing at the battle scenes not because of what happens in them, but because of Donald Jack's setup beforehand. When Bandy was preparing to leave for Europe, his father, a self-righteous minister in the Ottawa Valley, still shaken by the 50-year-old origin of species, described the Great War as a battle not just against the barbaric legions of the heathen Hun, but against all revolutionaries, theorists, anarchists, and Charles Darwin. He and others saw the greatest dangers and the temptations of alcohol and scoffed at bleak stories of battle wounds and trench foot. Plain carelessness, one church elder tells Bandy in the book. No excuse at all for it. It may be a little damp at the front, but to let your feet get that way is inexcusable. I hear the generals are thinking of punishing anyone who so abuses his extremities. As he watches the passing bodies, sits in the mud, and listens to the shells fall, Bandy reads letters from his mother, who hopes that he's keeping up his piano lessons while he's abroad, adding that her son must be having an interesting time over there, seeing Westminster Abbey and the Tower of London, and places like that. The correspondence from Canada crescendos when Bandy starts receiving letters of condolence. "My dear Bartholomew, we sympathize with you in your misfortune. Despite everything, we are still your friends." And no explanation included. Eventually, an aunt tells Bandy that his father had been caught in an indiscretion in the cornfield. Another force that keeps the book light is the love story based on narrowed eyes. Bandy falls for the young Englishwoman, Catherine Lewis, whose face was characterized by a squint. At first, Bandy says simply that she had a slight squint, and later a squint to be self-conscious about. Then he notices that her squint really suits her, and eventually confesses, "That faint squint of hers affected me strongly." Bandy later thinks there's something almost erotic about her squint. Jack manages to mix the humor and horror pretty well, but it probably wasn't easy. Even though 3 Cheers for Me ends with a cliffhanger inference of more to come, and even though Jack would eventually write many more Bandy books, a second one did not appear for over a decade. Despite those 1960s inclinations to think of chauffeuring celebrities instead of corpses, it still took a bit of work to find humor in war. Now here's a writing exercise based on 3 Cheers for Me. Recount a conversation between 2 wartime cabinet ministers talking about the importance of table manners and dry cleaning services on the front lines.